Okay. So why don't you just give us an introduction, your name, location, how long you've been with NID, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Lawrence Batiste. I am a managing counselor at NID in Riverdale, Georgia. Uh, I've been with NID since that's about 2007. So that's a little over 14 years. I've been working with clients when they started, when we really fell into the um, issue with modifications, people falling going to foreclosure. We really got kicked in there. We had a staff put together so that we could assist individuals to be able to save their home. And we really at this point in time we have grown. It's been tremendous. From that point, say that was at that point we had one office, and that was two offices basically. Now we've got several offices throughout the metro area, and with strong counselors and experienced counselors, and counselors who are passionate about working with clients. We don't look at just the factor of trying to just help one person get there, but we're looking at helping them save their home, stay in their home. And then when we get to the process of pre-purchase counseling and so forth, we want to make sure that we counsel them so that they can make sure that they are prepared properly to be able to live in those homes there. NID has been really a stronghold here in the Atlanta market. We started off and nobody knew of NID. But right now, all over this city, if you call for a counseling agency, you calling for NID because they know that they can depend on us. We show up and then we show out because we're the first in and always the last out to make sure that we are helping clients do their best to stay in their homes. And in a time like this, it's even more important to be able to help prepare them. And we're even getting in depth right now into budget counseling and stepping individuals in, to get to home ownership. But the factor about it all is what I've experienced is that counselors tell the truth or lay out the facts to our clients and letting them know what they should or shouldn't do, not telling them what to do, but making recommendations so that they can make the right decisions. These decisions are all theirs. We always indicate that it's their decision. We give you the knowledge. Now you have to utilize that knowledge to make a difference in your life and your family's life. And that's why we also with them press toward home ownership. And it doesn't have to be today. We've got clients right now, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, who we've worked with that are now just in the process of being ready to buy now. And that's exciting because we never turn them down. We're always working with them consistently. So I would say, NID, you got it. NID, we love you. Because of the fact is that we've got leadership that has the same passion that we have locally in each one of our markets.
So I've probably done about half a dozen C-bomb interviews so far, and one thing I seem to hear more regularly than anything else is the importance of education versus sales. So the motivation between an NID counselor and say a real estate professional or any other sales. What do you think? What's the difference? Like when you approach an NID client versus approaching a different industry client, what's the difference? Of mindset.
When you're speaking of in regards to a counselor and one like an NID counselor who usually has been or is a real estate professional as well as a counselor, I put that in where I am today. I I look at an individual, I separate the two mentally completely. And when I look at an NID client, my total objective is to make sure that I can help them be prepared to make the choices that they want to make. Because in failing to allowing them to make choices, then I'm failing in altogether as a counselor, because I find that giving them instructions, then they have to make those decisions for the purpose of living. Anything comes up in regards to purchasing or buying and everything else, it's upon them, but it's also upon them to get the knowledge. So we seek to educate. And especially right now, in a time when you look at the changes in the real estate industry, when you start talking about buyer and seller representation and buyer agents getting paid, well, who in essence is going to pay the buyer's commission? The buyers need to be clearly aware and be descriptive by a counselor in regards to what the commission structure is set up as, or how the compensation is being handled up front, so that they are familiar with that and not get surprised within a contract, or not get surprised where at maybe an agent may say, I'm not going to present this contract here because I'm not getting paid. Well, once they're in responsibility, they need to understand that they've got a contract. And that's one of the first things that has to happen between a buyer and a buyer's agent. They must have a written contract clearly specifying their negotiation, their understanding between the two of them. And that's what we look at as counselors. That's going to be a weight upon us to make sure that we explain that process. We must know from state to state, county to county, city to city, because these contracts differ in all of these communities. So it's important now that as a counselor, we take that on, because we have to educate the community. Now, when I look at a real estate professional, and I'll put the side of a real estate professional, I am, of course, a real estate professional. So what I say is, then it's still my responsibility, though, to educate. I would make sure, first thing, I want to make sure that that client went to a home buyer's education class. I want to make sure that that buyer understands the process of the home inspection, the mortgage, the all of these things they need to be aware of. They even need to be aware of insurance, because they're not clear a lot of times on the different types of insurance, the methods and so forth. So as a real estate professional, I'll make sure that these individuals go to an educational class. Even though the individual in cases probably have bought homes before, I advise, even take 1 hour, even take a segment. What do you know about? Because as a real estate professional, I know that there are changes every day. And every class that we give on the NID, I learn from. So that's the point. If I'm learning and I'm doing this regular, what can I expect to happen from a real estate professional or a client that doesn't have this regularly and not feeding their minds every other week or every month in regards to this process? So I think that that's where I look at it as far as a real estate professional. But unfortunately, some of us decide that we want to we're after selling a house, or we're after selling a piece of property. But it's not about the property. If it weren't for the person, there wouldn't be a need for the property. So what I'm saying here is that we've got to be focusing on the individual in this process.
That's what jumps out at me, is that if, say, a real estate professional has a product or service to sell, they're trying to bring that one product or service to a client. And, they want them to choose, select, embrace that one thing that, is going to profit the professional. With HUD-approved housing counseling, it's so much more of a case-by-case basis, right? Where, you're really looking at it, and the outcome isn't as important or isn't as defined, and it's more helping the client define their own goal and then achieve that goal rather than bringing a goal in and saying, you want this, you need this, let me help you get it.
Well, let me just throw this example at you just for, I just recently finished with a client today who has just looked at and come to me for credit counseling or being prepared for home ownership, being mortgage ready. And in the process, I asked a few questions, and the she had, or the person had about a 540 credit score. The mortgage person said, well, you have to have at least 580. And then someone else told her basically that she could have 640. Well, again, as a counselor, my explanation to her was in essence, we're going to go down this track for you, with you, and we're going to look at what's going to get your credit to the highest level. Number one, your goal should be a minimum of a 680, because with the 680, it'll give you the choices of the mortgages you want. Not just getting into the house because you got a mortgage, but you have choices and you have a better interest rate. And all of those things will reflect in the cost over the years, not just that one time hit. And that's where I find as a if you're still looking to sell a house, then you may be just looking to get them ready just at the minimum level to get them in the house and get them sold. And that means you don't know what kind of mortgage you're going to end up with, whether it's a predatory or whether it is just a high interest loan or whichever. You got yourself in a house, and then in the end, 6 months later, you're fighting to make sure you can make the payments. So that's where I clear that objective in the heart of a counselor. Our objective is to get the client the best that they can get and help them achieve that. Now, even if they don't achieve it, it's on them. It's their choice. But you got to help them. If they're willing to work for that, then you keep them accountable to that.
Yeah. And I don't think it's very profitable for most salespeople or to have a long relationship with a client. It's better to turn them over, get a new client, and continue on. So there's definitely a motivation to maybe get a subprime product or something that's not in the client's most advantageous, interest in that moment. And so I wonder, with NID counseling, the relationship with the client, as you were saying earlier, spans so many years, and that creates a sense of community. It's community development in a way, correct? I mean, how do you see community development resulting from these long relationships with clients?
When I see that, it's just that what it has helped me do is being able to put together a program that I can invite the whole community. So if I've got 5, 10, 15, 20 of those individuals then that are looking at improving credit or looking at home ownership, or who in essence have participated in a class and so forth, haven't purchased yet. Well, I bring those together, and then we openly have discussions. You have discussions on what's holding you back. Is it now that the rates have gone too high? Is it now that the prices have gone too high? But let's look at what you have to do to be prepared, because there's going to come a time in that community, in that flock of those individuals, that the rates may come down, the prices may come down, and it may not be in 5 years, but it may be in 10. But if you're preparing yourself now, then you can get ready and be ready at the time that it happens. But what happens so many times, if you don't have that type of community, you don't have that type of communication, what will happen is individuals will lose out when the opportunity is ready. And that's what I try to make sure that I cross all the time with the clients, is that you got to get ready. You got to be prepared, because if something happens today, if the rates went down to 2% today, could you buy? No, you can't, because your credit score is too high. So I mean too low. But the fact of being is that that's where we've got to work on. You got to just be ready. It's better just to be sitting there ready, and then a lot of times folks are waiting for what? For down payment. And that's good. There's opportunities there. But what are you doing right now to automatically save some funds and put yourself in the position where you have some extra money? It may not be the amount that you need, but you have, if you've got 50, I mean, maybe 5,000 or so that's put to the side over a period of time, that is money that you can utilize in your home when you get started or put down as you need it. But it's getting you prepared.
It sounds like, building strong communities through home ownership isn't a quick fix.
No.
It's something where the information and the education lays a foundation for financial stability and then generational wealth. And that's not something that can be achieved if the primary motive is profit.
And the way I lay out to a lot of the individuals is that you've got people looking at you. You got children, they're looking at you. One of the things I ask is that when you get to the budget and you want to get things together, I said this is a family affair. It's not you. It's not all on you. You got teenage kids, you bring them in there. You start talking about how they're gonna contribute, how they gonna handle. They want certain things. You trying to reduce this, then who's got a part-time job that in essence can bring some money to pay this bill so that you can in essence make a difference there to reduce your overall expenses. And because the problem we're having here in this particular metro area, and it's probably all over the place, is that the high rate of rent. Rent now is well over what you're going to pay for a mortgage. Even if it's $200,000 home, you're going to be paying much more than what you're paying in rent. I mean, in mortgage. So that's important.
Let's hear more about that, because this is one thing we'd like to do more of, is just really maybe do like really quick 10-minute interviews every other week or something, in the bigger metro areas, especially to try to get some real time issues that your community is facing when it comes to housing. So you said that rental prices is one of the biggest challenges in housing now in the Atlanta metro area. How are these high rental costs affecting residents? I mean, just affecting housing in general in Atlanta.
Well, right now with the rates that are going up, we've had some sellers, I mean, some owners or landlords have increased their rent, I would easily say 50% over the past couple of years. And, they've gotten additional charges and so forth. But what we are finding, of course, is that income is not rising that much. What happening now, we've got more individuals at this point in time coming for counseling. They are seeking rental assistance. And unfortunately, all of the funds that we've had from county to state and everything else, we have none of those funds right now. Those are not available at this point in time. So where we have to fall to is directly in budgeting your funds. Start controlling. These are the things where individuals have to start tightening down. We got to look at it a little bit differently than we used to. So in Atlanta, I would easily say where rent was probably at one point in time $1,100 maybe a month. You're looking at it's in the ballpark of $1,700, $1,800, $2,000 right now. That same property that you were going to get in is that now. Now, to say that was if it was in the metro or downtown area, then you extensively much higher than that. So that's what's happening right here. There are some petitions and some being brought forth to control rent because there has not been a rent control. But there are some things that are being brought up right now in the counties to control rent increases that they wouldn't be as high as they've been put out.
That's one example, I think, of a client that might not look attractive or profitable for a private industry, a concern, where someone struggling with rent and looking for renter's assistance or ways to manage their monthly rent, you're not close to buying a home, and you're probably not close to using a real estate professional to find another rental, because those are generally going to be costly. So if a renter in Atlanta is struggling with their monthly payment and they come to you, it seems like the approach is the more sustainable, looking at the root of the finances, the resources available, so that it's not so much just a short-term fix of reducing the stress of the rent, but actually building some stability over time with housing, regardless of what, it's rental or ownership or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
That is very true. And what we look at is that when someone comes to us that way, we definitely go back again to the budget and look at every segment of that budget. You get down to electrical, you're getting down to the mortgage payment and all of these items. We've gone and requested, even though you're right on, ask your landlord to give you some kind of leadway. Nothing hurts when you ask. They may say no, but it's nothing hurting that you ask to be able to check on it. Most that I find is that you got individuals that are sitting there with $300 and $400 telephone bills. They're riding around in $700-800 a month cars that they're paying insurance on every month of about $300 to $400 a month. And then you got the gas and so forth. So you're looking at, I'm riding around and driving around in my house, but I can't afford a house. So you got to look at all of those things, and they have to answer to themselves. What's most important? If I've got two kids and and I have a place for them to stay, what is more important? That car that I have or shelter over my head? And you've got to look at that point, do I desire to have to, I would say, buy down or get something a little bit less, or do I just struggle with it? They have to make those decisions. But you have to, as a counselor, we have to present those things so that they can look at and make those decisions in regards to it. Because every day right now, we get renters who are struggling, and the best thing that we can do for them is to be able to look at budget, advise, and then repeatedly what I end up doing is, once you've given the instructions, once you've gone over budget, once you've outlined it and they accept what their new budget is, then you got a date that you get a calendar date set up for the next appointment, and show me, what have you done to improve from where you were? Have you been following this budget? And it's upon them at that point in time to do so. If you hear from them, then you go over it and you see if you haven't heard, send a note and say, I haven't heard from you. And if I can help you, then we'll go from there. But that's basically, as a counselor, that's where I look at that. And that is a large issue right now, a big one.
It's interesting. When we were in New Orleans for the NAREB annual convention a few weeks ago, I spoke with Caleb Jean-Marie, who is one of our HBCU scholars from Dillard University, a young man. And as I was talking with him, I asked him, especially as a young African American male, why is financial literacy, why this education that you're receiving from NID and homeownership, budgeting, financial literacy, why is that so important specifically for someone in your position? And his response was, look, a lot of my classmates right now are wearing $200 shoes, but don't have the means for building their future. And he said, I asked him what his personal interests were, and he said investing. He's interested in stocks and investing. And he had a clearer view from education he received about what was a priority, and not having short-term gratification and instead looking for a long-term solution. So it does seem like a lot of us never received that financial education early on, and we were educated by consumerist, sellers and things.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you say? You have when a renter comes to you, if a renter in the Atlanta metro area comes to you today, or is listening to this, and wants to know why they should come speak with you or one of your HUD certified counselors, how would you respond?
my first question, are you serious about getting out of debt? Are you serious about moving forward with, your life, your career? Are you serious about looking at the possibility of home ownership? If you are serious about this, I want you to realize it's not an easy task. It is something that you got to be committed to. And you got to realize that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a struggle in some cases from where you are to where you want to be. So we can help you step by step. It may take 6 months. It may take a year. It may take 2 years. It may even take longer than that. But if you're committed to the process, we are committed to you. And when you're ready to get started, we will start with you. But you've got to be committed. And I will be relying upon you to contact me on the time and dates that we agree upon, because that's your commitment. That's what I would be looking
Mr. Batiste, you've been a pillar of NID for a long time. You've worked with Mr. Carlisle, the president of NID, for a long time, and have a personal investment in NID and in the work NID does. I also know that your faith is a big part of what drives your daily life and your values. How does, I imagine your faith plays into why you continue to do this? Because being an NID counselor can be really frustrating at times. I know, being a branch office manager, funding, the stress of it. There's been, thankfully, a lot of talk about the mental health of counselors and clients. But so how do you see the act of service within in NID? How does it relate to your motivating values that I see come through in your faith?
at. Let me just say that I, you know, I am a associate pastor, and my work is not just inside the house; it's also outside. It's where I can touch people. This is an opportunity to touch people's lives and make a difference. And when you touch and you're giving. And what I look at is that I'm giving the best of what I have learned, the best of who I am, and I am trying to advise in the manner that I feel that I would be led to do according to the word that I stand on, and that is the word of God. And when I do that, I'm serving. NID is an open door to help people because there are so many in need. And if they listen, they will get something from it. The key part about it all is not just to listen, but to be obedient to what you hear and then do it. So as far as what I look at with this, that it's this is never ending. Some people talk about, well, I'm going to retire and whatever, and this, that. And the- This is not a retirement. This is life. This is what you do every day. This is how you make a difference in life by changing somebody's life. Because if we can change one person's life that comes upon in front of us, they can change the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. So by helping them put these things in place, we are building generational wealth. And it's not just financial wealth. It is by also seeing that we are making a difference in that person's personal life, in the way they carry themselves, rather than being on the streets. They're going to be, their objective is going to be able to build wealth and maybe look at building a home or doing those things rather than their minds being somewhere else. At the same time, as a parent, you're setting the example then to your children. So what I look at, this is a service. This is my service. And you're gonna get the good and you're gonna get the bad. And if you're in church and you're a pastor, you realize the church is not that much different than dealing with the people on the outside. Because what you're looking at is you got good and you got bad. And if you don't invite the bad into it, then you ain't got no business being open because that's where we're at. We're all in there because we all need help. And that's why I look at NID as being that help. NID is a help. NID in itself has the passion and the desire to make a difference in people's lives, not to make a difference that much in their pocketbooks, but to make a difference in their lives. And if you got a good life and you are living it in joy and in peace and comfort and sheltered, there's nothing better than that. You don't need all the money in the world. We just need to cut down some of these strong desires we've got until we can afford those desires, but take it step by step.
The home is so important. It affects all the aspects of life: education, professional development, community. The home really is where the spiritual values, where the care of the spirit is molded and then brought out into the world. And so, do you see, and I think I heard this in your answer, do you see your role as an NID counselor? You're not only caring for the material well-being of the clients, but you're really caring for the spirit of the clients as well.
That is absolutely true. But you see, that's what I find with a lot or most of our NID counselors. That spirit is alive within them. That's the Holy Spirit. That's what's coming out. That's what's being put into people's lives. Not the spirit of what I want, but what I can give and how I can make a difference. Yes, we are rewarded eventually, but we've got to give first. And that's what happens. We are able to give. If you're not willing to give, you're not going to receive. So I put the blinder in regards to receiving, but and put my hands open in regards to giving. So that's what we have to look at. It is definitely a giving. It's definitely a spirit that we have as counselors to continuously give and make a difference in the community that we live in.
Without belaboring it, I'm done with my questions, but is there anything that came up during the interview or anything you'd like to say that we haven't covered or, that kind of came to mind?
I think I pretty well, covered my thoughts.
Good.
I think we're pretty well clear there, and
Good.
the opportunity to go to further discussions later.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Batiste. This has really been a pleasure to talk with you. This is the best part of it for me, is just to get to know the branch office managers and talk with you. I mean, this has been really rewarding for me. So thank you so much.